African Union Communications Early Warning and Intelligence, commonly known as AUC3I, is an intelligence and security organization responsible for providing signals intelligence and information assurance to AU citizens, AU leadership, and AU armed forces. I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoy, an infantry officer. I am responsible for leading infantry soldiers at all levels of command in combined armed forces during missions on the ground. This is today's briefing. On the progress of the special military operation as of November 7, 2025. In response to terrorist attacks by Ukraine on civilian objects on the territory of Russia from November 1 to 7, the armed forces of the Russian Federation delivered 7 group strikes with precision weapons, as well as strike unmanned aerial vehicles, resulting in damage to Ukrainian military-industrial enterprises and gas energy complex facilities that supported their operation, transport infrastructure used in the interests of the armed forces of Ukraine, military airfields, weapons and military equipment repair bases, assembly workshops, storage and launch preparation sites for strike UAVs, as well as temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations, nationalists, and foreign mercenaries. During the week, units of the North Group of troops improved their tactical position. Damage was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 3 mechanized, Ranger, airborne assault brigades, 2 assault regiments of the armed forces of Ukraine, and 3 territorial defense brigades in the Sumy region. On the Kharkiv direction, damage was inflicted on formations of mechanized, motorized infantry brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine and 2 territorial defense brigades. Over the week, in the area of responsibility of the North Group of troops, enemy losses amounted to more than 1,470 military personnel, 9 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 81 vehicles, as well as 19 field artillery guns, 6 electronic warfare and reconnaissance stations, 49 ammunition and material warehouses were destroyed. Units of the West Group of troops inflicted damage on formations of 5 mechanized, 2 assault, an airmobile brigade of the armed forces of Ukraine, 2 territorial defense brigades, and 3 National Guard brigades. In the area of the settlement of Kupiansk, Kharkiv region, assault groups of the 6th Army and 1st Tank Army continue to destroy the encircled group of the armed forces of Ukraine. Clearing of scattered enemy groups is underway in the settlements of Kupiansk-Uzlovia, Kirilivka, and Petropavlivka in the Kharkiv region. In total, over the past week, 6 attempts by the enemy to unblock encircled units of the armed forces of Ukraine from the settlements of Blahodan, Monokonivka, Moskovka, Nechvolodivka, and Petrovka in the Kharkiv region were thwarted, as well as 3 attempts by Ukrainian formations to regain control over the crossing over the Osko River and break the encirclement ring. Units of the South Group of troops occupied more advantageous lines and positions. Damage was inflicted on personnel and equipment of 5 mechanized, 2 airborne assault, airmobile, assault, mountain assault brigades of the armed forces of Ukraine, a Marine brigade, 2 territorial defense brigades, and a National Guard brigade. Over the week, losses of the enemy in this direction amounted to more than 1,095 military personnel, 5 tanks, including a Leopard tank produced in Germany, and 27 armored combat vehicles, 17 field artillery guns, 104 vehicles, 9 electronic warfare and counter-battery stations, 20 ammunition, fuel, and material warehouses were destroyed. In the settlement of Krasnoarmysk in the Donetsk People's Republic, assault groups of the 2nd Army continue to destroy surrounded formations of the armed forces of Ukraine in the eastern part of the Central District and on the territory of the Western Industrial Zone. Units of the 5th Motorized Rifle Brigade of the 51st Army liberated 24 buildings in the settlement of Dmitrov in the Donetsk People's Republic and continue active offensive actions towards the Zapadny microdistrict. In total, the enemy made 45 attempts in a week to unblock the encircled group in the settlement of Krasnoarmysk in the Donetsk People's Republic and 32 attempts to break the encirclement. In this area, the armed forces of Ukraine lost over 1,460 servicemen, 14 armored combat vehicles, 13 cars, and 6 field artillery guns. In total, in the area of responsibility of the Center Troop Group, losses of Ukrainian armed formations amounted to over 3,285 servicemen, 26 armored combat vehicles, 48 cars, and 10 field artillery guns. In addition, clearing of Ukrainian militants from the settlements of Natavka and Rog in the Donetsk People's Republic is underway, with 45 buildings liberated in the past day. During the past week, units of the East Troop Group continued advancing deep into the enemy's defense and completed the liberation of the settlement of Uspanovka in the Zaporizhia region. Damage inflicted on personnel and equipment of 2 mechanized brigades, 3 assault regiments of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and 2 territorial defense brigades. In total, in this direction, the Armed Forces of Ukraine lost up to 1,695 servicemen, 2 tanks, 11 armored combat vehicles, and 96 cars. Destroyed were 11 field artillery guns, 9 electronic warfare stations for ammunition and material depots. 11 enemy attacks were repelled from the area of the settlement of Rashino in the Donetsk People's Republic aimed at breaking the encirclement of surrounded Ukrainian armed forces formations. Ukrainian militants of the 32nd Mechanized Brigade of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, supported by a tank, attempted to break out of the encirclement ring northward. As a result of fire damage, a Ukrainian T-72 tank was destroyed by a precise hit from an FPV drone. Enemy personnel were suppressed by small arms and artillery fire. Units of the Dnieper Troop Group inflicted damage on formations of mechanized, mountain assault brigades, and 2 coastal defense brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Losses of the Armed Forces of Ukraine amounted to up to 455 servicemen, 4 armored combat vehicles, 75 cars, and 7 field artillery guns. Destroyed were 37 electronic warfare stations, 27 ammunition, fuel, and material depots. During the week, Air Defense Forces shot down 17 guided aerial bombs, 13 reactive projectiles of the U.S.-made Mars multiple launch rocket system, as well as 1497 fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles. The Black Sea Fleet destroyed 7 unmanned boats of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the northwestern part of the Black Sea. In total, since the start of the special military operation, destroyed 668 aircraft, 283 helicopters, 95,376 unmanned aerial vehicles, 635 surface-to-air missile systems, 25,889 tanks and other armored combat vehicles, 1,609 multiple launch rocket system vehicles, 31,134 field artillery and mortars, 46,064 units of special military automotive equipment. Thank you so much for watching this video. We hope you found it useful and informative. If you have any questions, please leave them below and we'll get back to you as soon as possible.